This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run. This country has gotten bloated.
Oh, calm down there, Vivek Ramaswamy. How dare you speak this way? Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We got a lot going on today, so I'm a few minutes late, but I mean, we got 3 guests on the show today. Today's a royal Thirsty Thursday. I told Stephanie last night that we were going to have Royal Thirsty Thursday today, and she's like, what's Royal Thirsty Thursday? I'm like, ooh, good. That's a good hook. And that means she's interested. That means you might be too. Well, Thirsty Thursdays, I think you guys know. It's when the lovely ladies of liberty join us here on the Wake Up America show, and everybody's like, woo! Like the old, it's like the old cartoons where you have the wolf whistle, right? And they're just like, you know, the eyes popping out of the head. You guys are sick. You're disgusting. What? Because you want to see beautiful women? What's wrong with this? I'm a man, aren't I? I'm a man. Camelia Peterson joins us at 8 a.m., man, and Daniela Pensack at 8:30. But at 7:30, yes, it's 7:30 here on the Wake Up America show, we have a very special guest. The benevolent monarch, the king of all libertarians, joins us to make this a very royal Thirsty Thursday. Yes. So much strange news in the world. Just tons of things happening all at once. I mean, we're going to talk to King Libertarian about the Epstein stuff. Pam Bondi says she's going to release the files. It's supposed to happen today, and then a slow leak out over 24 hours. What's taking so long, guys? We want the files. Give us the files. We're going to talk to King Libertarian about that. Camelia Peterson joins us at 8 a.m. Central Time. We're going to talk to her about, have you heard of Data Republican? If you listen to the Wake Up America show, you hear about what's going to be on the legacy media a few days from now. You get the inside scoop that you're not going to get on the big news networks, on terrestrial radio. This is why you listen to podcasts. Camelia and I are going to have a conversation today about a deaf and blind woman, I believe. I've got everything straight there. Camelia will straighten me out on everything. But she's handicapped, and she's a mega brain, a savant, if you will. And she has been responsible for helping to uncover fraud, waste, and abuse for Doge. She's a fascinating person. And Camelia and I are going to discuss her at 8 a.m. Central Time. At 8:30 a.m. Central Time here on the Wake Up America show, we're going to speak to Daniela Pensack about the changing media environment. People were making fun of the Washington Post yesterday because Jeff Bezos had said, this was towards the end of the show that this came out, Jeff Bezos had sent out a letter to his editorial staff that the op-eds were now going to focus on free markets and personal liberties. I'm like, has Jeff been watching the Wake Up America show? Because that's what we're all about, baby. But the Washington Post, I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. And obviously the left is big mad about this. And I even saw some of the national conservatives were upset about it because they thought that, oh, we don't want the Washington Post to go libertarian. Like it's going to go like hardcore, some kind of hardcore nationalist to start praising Adolf Hitler or something like that. No, it's not going to be, it's not going to be like that. But a libertarian Washington Post op-ed section, I never thought I'd see the day. I read the Wall Street Journal, and sometimes I get libertarians in there. Sometimes I get libertarian views, but it's still legacy media. And I don't know if legacy media can be fixed. As someone who's worked in legacy media, I've won broadcasting awards for my radio work and investigations and during COVID-19. But I would say that I don't think that the media, in the sense, can be reformed. Now it's going to break, and it's going to be broken, and then it's going to be reformed. The pieces will be broken. The broken pieces will then be used to create the new media in the future. But now that social media here is podcasting, streaming, on demand, everything is available at your fingertips. You can watch the Wake Up America show again and get news here that you will get in a few days on the legacy media. This is why, in large part, the real transition is happening. That and the fact that it's easier and easier for people like myself to make money doing this and build a career being completely and fully independent. I mean, I don't have a boss other than the free market to tell me what to do. And the fact that I have a background in the legacy media means that at least I've spent time working on what is supposed to be journalistic ethics and standards. But I also see what a sham the legacy media is because I've seen behind the curtain, and it's all the Wizard of Oz. Good morning, pineapples. If Vivek Ramaswamy said this, do you think that people would let him get away with it?
This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run.
Yeah, it's like Vivek Ramaswamy, people are like, oh, I don't want to vote for Vivek Ramaswamy. He's terrible. I don't want to support him for governor of Ohio. But because he criticized American culture. He criticized American culture. Okay.
This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run.
Because I keep getting these lectures from people on the right, these national conservative types and these more authoritarian cons. Right? Keep getting these lectures about, Vivek Ramaswamy's not one of us. He's a slime ball. He's a snake oil salesman and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I could see that there's some valid criticisms of Vivek Ramaswamy, just like there are me. But I mean, the whole idea that, Vivek criticized American culture. Yeah, we all do. We all criticize American culture. But I had somebody posted a really good tweet yesterday in response. Why Republicans don't like Vivek Ramaswamy. And if I have time, I'll share that with you today. I don't know if I'm going to have time. I've got a billion clips. I've got a million guests. I just don't know how I'm going to be able to put it all together for you today. I'll weave a narrative through this somehow. And of course, don't forget, if you love your Wake Up America show and you need your good stuff and you need your hit in the morning of liberty, make sure that you start dropping those Rumble rants in today. Let's get those Rumble rants started. Why, Austin? Why get the Rumble rant started? Because, guys, if you start them earlier, then it's easier for people to do it throughout the rest of the show. It's kind of like, after you've been drinking for a long time and you'll bust the seal, we're going to break the seal, drop a Rumble rant, any amount, support the Wake Up America show. I forgot to turn on my ring light. Hold on. Here's a clip of federal employees getting fired and leaving and crying, and enjoy it.
Can you tell us what your message is to these senators while we're watching?
I think it's really cruel to fire people for poor performance when they've only had great feedback. We've never had an issue with our performance, and we're doing work for the American public. We're here for safety, and we're patriots. We love our country. That's why we're taking these jobs that don't pay us in the private sector. I'm an accountant. I could get a private sector job tomorrow, but
You're an accountant, you can get a private sector job. Go get one. Get you a private sector job. Oh, look at this. Clapping. Look at them. Yeah, baby. Go, go, go. Come on, hurry up. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I know who I want to take me home. Guys, it's another beautiful morning in America. In Donald Trump's America, we fire federal employees. Afuera! I just can't believe that this is happening. Pentagon orders discharge of transgender troops. Big story, huge story. DOD issued a sweeping memo that states that those with gender dysphoria are incompatible with the high mental and physical standards necessary for military service. Service members who have gender dysphoria are disqualified for military service. Service members who took cross-sex hormones or sex change surgery are disqualified for military service. This is the new military under Trump. And I know many of you are very happy, and it may be a good thing. Whenever a civilian or someone who has never served in the military offers an opinion on the military, the first thing that anybody does is remind them that they have never been a member of the military. They like to do that. And it's understandable. Right? It is important, of course, to remember that the civilians go above the military, that the civilians control the military, and that the military serves the civilian population. Remember when I was in that meeting with the public servants the other day to talk about abolishing the IRS? They were getting very snippy with me, very uppity about me recording them while in the line of duty, while doing public service, and I wanted to remind them that they were public servants. Well, that applies to the military as well, of course. So is it the case that, one, if you have not served in the military, that your opinion should be taken with a very strong grain of salt about the military? Sure. But our current commander-in-chief of the military right now did not serve in the military. So it is wise to consider that civilians who have never served in the military can do everything all the way up into, including command-in-chief, the military. So while, yes, a civilian's opinion about the military should be taken with a grain of salt to a certain extent, it is important to remember that the military are public servants, and therefore they will listen to our opinions about how the military should be run, and they will also carry out the orders of the civilian population through our democratically elected civilian commander-in-chief. Yes, the commander-in-chief role is a civilian position. Did you know that? It's not a military position. It's a civilian position. Therefore, the question of the transgenders in military, I always consider, well, I didn't serve in the military, so what is the purpose of the military? Well, the purpose of the military is to save our asses. The purpose of the military is to defend our national security, right? Individually save our collective asses. Collectively save our individual asses. And so my opinion of transgenders in the military is colored with the simple fact that my idea of what a military is for is to save our ass. And consider yourself in a trench, as a civilian in a trench, and you're being attacked by hostile. The Ukrainians are mad that we did a peace deal with Russia, and they build up their military, and they become a very advanced civilization. And Ukraine is now invading. It's like Red Dawn, and Ukraine is invading. They're moving across the desert of West Texas. They've made their way up through Mexico. They landed in South America. They've made their way up into Mexico, and they're now crossing West Texas, heading for the Houston-Dallas coast before they move up straight to Kansas City and itching for a fight with me. And somehow they make it all the way up to Kansas City, and then across. They want to take the capital, Jefferson City, obviously the jewel of the United States, Jefferson City. I find myself in a foxhole one day. Now, would I be an unarmed civilian in a foxhole? Absolutely not. But let's say I'm lucky enough to have a member of the U.S. military nearby. And while under assault by the deadly Ukrainian military force, which has made its way to the United States and came all the way to the capital of Jefferson City, D.C. is fallen. I'm in a foxhole, and a member of the U.S. military jumps into the foxhole and is returning fire to the Ukrainians. Now, this member of the U.S. military just so happens to be wearing fantastic lipstick and tremendous makeup. It's the best passing transgender military person you've ever seen. They've got their nails painted, but this person is just fucking shit up, and they are just massacring these Ukrainians. And at every chance that a Ukrainian comes up from behind me to slit my throat with his Bowie knife that he's taken, and the transgender military person blows their head off, and their brains splatter all over me. But I'm just like, thanks. And I'm like, what do I call you, right? In that circumstance, in that scenario, implausible though it might be, would I give a shit if the person was transgender or had their wing cut off? Would I really care? Answer, no, I wouldn't care. Right? So it's like, the problem with the whole transgender and the military thing is that the military has gotten away from the concept of the point of it is to defend us, right? The military, even still with budget cuts coming, the point of the military is to invade other countries and to set up bases around the world and to police the world. And the United States enforces a global hegemony that has been in place since World War II and the creation of the United Nations. And so we have this need for excess service personnel all over the planet. And therefore, when somebody like myself, or if you haven't served in the military, then you didn't step up, right? And when a transgender person does decide to step up, then I say to myself, okay, well, they were willing to put themselves in a foxhole and save my life when I wasn't willing to do the same and to sign up. Now, if the military needs standards, and if gender dysphoria as a mental illness if they actually have a mental illness, that is a serious problem. And it's definitely something that maybe should be a disqualifier for the military. But I always want to leaven my view of who should and who shouldn't serve in the military with with at least a sense of humility, to be reminded, as we are reminded so often by members of the military, that if you did not serve, that your opinion should be taken with a grain of salt. Okay, well, that is fine, but then we'll put a little pepper on it and say, Donald Trump never served in the military and he's decided to remove them, so the military should listen to the commander-in-chief. There you go. Does anyone agree or disagree? Does this sound to you like, obviously I'm being silly with the Ukrainian metaphor here, or analogy, but tell me, does this make sense? Is everybody kind of like getting the concept that I'm putting out there? Sometimes I speak in idioms and things may not necessarily be as clear as I would like them to be. Okay, I want to hear your thoughts. You can send me texts at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. That's the text line. We're going to speak to the king of all libertarians here in a little less than 10 minutes. I am told, we are told, he is told, she is told that the Epstein flight lists will be dropping today.
Said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk. When can we see them, and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims. 200. So we have, well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah. What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information.
Yeah.
But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay. Well,
along with his co-defendant.
Absolutely. And he had help. That's for sure.
Sure
He
did.
had help. Yeah, he sure did. Okay, so let's take bets. Who thinks that something is going to be released today? If something is going to be released today, if you believe her, drop the number 1 in the chat if you believe that Pam Bondi is actually going to release something. If you don't think that something's going to be released today, drop a number 2 in the chat. Okay, don't drop an actual number 2. Drop a number 1 in the chat if you believe that Pam Bondi will release something today. Drop a number 2 if you doubt. Good morning, guys. All right. The king of all libertarians, the benevolent dictator that we've all been waiting for, is waiting for us in the wings. King Libertarian joins us to discuss this. It's a royal, thirsty Thursday. Don't go away. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionado
avocados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Hear ye, hear ye. I am Austin Peterson. Today is a wondrous day. The scrolls of Epstein's misdeeds unfurl on this day. Enter His Majesty, the King of all libertarians, clad in royal garb to dispense wisdom and wit on this modern treachery. Good morning, Your Highness.
You smell it.
What dost thou smell, Your Majesty?
I smell groveling. I smell fealty. I smell the deliciousness of my peasants off to work, toiling for their king early in the morning. I have just arose from my feather bed and took a dip in a bath of milk and honey and enjoying some nice barrel-aged whiskey coffee from the forlibertyshop.com, and I am at my leisure observing what my peasants and our constituents around the world are doing this morning. So good morning to you.
Thank you, Your Grace. Thank you, Your Grace. And 7 blessings be to you as well. O noble king, the scribe Bondi doth proclaim a trove of flight logs from Epstein's winged steed, the Lolita Express, shall be revealed. Pray tell, which knaves or lords of the realm dost thou reckon tooketh a jaunt to yon wicked isle?
Oh man, there will be signs, and we learned that the twisted fate of some actors might or might not be of good timing. So the timely leaving of some souls may be a sign of things to come, but I won't get into that person right so yet because of the circumstances. But I think that the names that will come out are the ones that we have been thinking of. And I did hear that Miss Bondi wanted to protect some of those victims, but I think you'll find some interesting victims' names will come out in the end. Child trafficking is something that they said would be a thing. I think that some surprising names like the Pillsbury Doughboy being trafficked for his cinnamon buns. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy, Austin. It's the sugar, the cinnamon. It was just too much for some on that list to handle. So,
Sire,
yes,
it could be Trump. It could be Clinton. Perhaps a jester like Kevin Spacey. I await the name drops. Majesty, the heralds speak of or 250 souls wronged by this villain, Epstein, a number most grim. How might thy royal court punish such a scoundrel were he yet drawing breath in thy dungeon?
After many a night in thine dungeon with the king libertarian water torture dripping upon thy forehead, and as displayed in the wonderful film by the great British comedians, clapping with the shackles above their head to the song and dance in the court. My favorite is the guillotine, right? Off with their heads.
Yay.
Off with their heads.
Yay, verily.
And nobody on that Epstein list is getting any cake. That I'm just not. They're not going to have their cake and eat. They've already done that. But off with their head, or the classic, tar and feather. That's always nice to see, a hot tar torture. I mean, anything with prolonged suffering for these folks. Bamboo shoots under the fingernails? Ooh, that's a good one.
A good one.
Always love that.
Very good one.
What pedophile torture and death isn't complete without some castration?
This is why we need a king. This is why the people need a king. We need someone who will make these decisions.
There is what I like to call the seated guillotine, where the pedophile doth place its buttocks, and then their unroyal jewels fall below a contraption, and then there is a vertical guillotine that just, you know,
they won't be able to serve in thine military after that.
Apparently not. Not in King Trump's military. I do have some opinions on that as well.
Well, sire, wait. Before we get there, if you don't mind, please forgive my brash interruption. Sire, Knights of the Congress, from Lady Luna to Sir Blackburn, doth clamor for these scrolls. Some whisper Bondi shields a favored baron. Whom dost thou suspect she guards in her stone keep?
I believe this person could be within thine family. It could be within the laws of in, for which marriage pacts are made to bond families through no love of any kind, but simply through financial and strategic connections between families, arranged marriages, as you so should say. But what I'm really interested in seeing, and what's really going to be bad for these folks that are on this list, is if you're on the Epstein list and the Diddy list, what you're if you got off the Lolita Express and then went straight to a Diddy party, I mean, come on, like, you can't be on both lists. But I think we might find somebody who is maybe the self-proclaimed king of rap.
Very good, sire. Very good, sire. We are all with you, and the spirit of the people are with you. Just a couple of more questions, sire, if you don't mind. Great king. The rogue Epstein met his end in a jail cell, Gaol spelling, jail cell. Yet minstrels sing of dark plots. Dost thou deem it a suicide by his own hand, or did a shadowy squire slip a blade twixt his ribs?
Yes. I ponder upon this many moons, and the fated night of his death still haunts his memories. I believe a jester was at play, a trickster, a Loki of sorts, that descended upon his cell, and then with thine magic wand zapped the cameras, zapped the unlocking of the doors, put a sleeping spell on the guards to where they sneezed off to sleep, and then, with their great strength, arose Mr. Epstein and snappeth his neck. And then with whatever items they had around them, hastily shuffled them, much like a Jesse Smollett noose. I'm just surprised that whoever this was didn't also slip a MAGA hat on him and say they were going to Subway at 2 a.m. and just happened to be in his cell at the same time.
Oh,
yeah, these occurrences doth be strange.
They doth be.
There is no explanation.
They do be strange. Thank you, your wise leader. Oh, wise sovereign, when these names be etched upon the public tapestry, what tumult dost thou foresee in the villages and castles of our land? Shall pitchforks rise or crowns fall?
As Lady Hillary Clinton once accomplished, many drives of hard will be smashed to dust. Many unexplained deaths will occur. Many other Lolita Expresses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that are named in its honor will be departing from our lands for distant lands, for them to be never seen again. very strange coincidences will occur that officially have no explanation, but as you all say in your land, readeth between the lineseth.
King,
it will be every day a year's worth of news happens, and that will, my good peasants, only accelerate. What I ask you as your king is to open thine mind and shut down thine mainstream media, because they are there to obfuscate and delegate and relegate you into the depths of a mind dungeon. But free yourselves, peasants, and think for yourselves, because we are in what I am bringing in, a new renaissance.
Amen.
A renaissance under your benevolent dictator, me.
Amen, Your Highness. Amen.
Yes.
Your mercy is glorious. We are so grateful to have you on this show. You do have your own show, Your Majesty. Will thou please deign to grant us the time in which you will be on stage tonight?
Yes. In the Central Time Zone, it will be 9 in the p.m. to 11. And I will be joined by my intrepid co-host, Brian Piotr. And it is called Liberty Tonight, where freedom never sleeps, every Thursday, 9 to 11, in the Central Time Zone that you so call. On a side note, I am working with King Trump to eliminate the spring forward that is coming, fast approaching. I will do everything in my power to stop that hour from being stolen from you, and that we shall all be on the King's hour. There will be no east, there will be no west. There'll just be when I rise, and then you all rise with me. But
as
tonight,
it ought to be.
Yes.
As it ought to be.
But tonight, yes, we may be having some important guests. Maybe we bring in Bill Clinton to not only respond to his concubine of one time coming forward. Maybe we'll have some other folks as well. We will be doing top 10 to be determined what our top 10 will be, and then obviously as well, we will have my headlining speech, King's speech, to set the show off right. So 9 to 11 tonight.
We cannot wait, Your Majesty. Fare thee well, O noble King Libertarian, sovereign of jest and lord of liberties. May thy crown gleam ever bright, and may thy royal wit sharpen the blades of truth for the battles yet to come. Thank you very much, Your Majesty.
Thank you.
Ah, yes, the king of all libertarians. Hark, good folks of the realm, this day's tidings doth unfurl a tapestry most dire. The scrolls of the villain Epstein, teased by the high scribe Pam Bondi, descend upon us with flight logs aplenty and names numbering o'er 250 wronged souls. From the Lolita Express to the shadowed hiles of power, knights like Luna and Blackburn press for light, whilst whispers of shielded barons and dark deeds echo across the land. Methinks the peasants shall sharpen their pitchforks when these parchments be read. So until the morrow's sun doth rise, keep thine eyes upon the kingdom's X-scrolls. Follow at King Libertarian for royal decrees, and heed the trumpets as this tale of treachery unfolds. Godspeed, ye listeners, and may justice ride as swift as a charger through yon corrupt fiefdoms.
Doge did not exist 2 years ago. 19-year-olds were not raiding the Treasury 2 years ago. People who have no idea with medical background have not been hauling in and creating kangaroo courts for scientists to dismiss them 2 years ago. That started happening now. Elon Musk is not a scientist. He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money.
Hold on, wait a second. He's a billionaire con man with a lot of money? It would be strange if we were to learn that Elon Musk were a billionaire without a lot of money. Imagine, if you will, a world where people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez exist. Imagine, if you will, let's imagine something more fun. The United States Postal Service. God, I love Jeremy Kauffman's tweets. He posted yesterday, I would pay money for the USPS to stop existing, or at least stop coming to my house. We are literally taxed to have you put trash put on our porch every day. I would pay for the USPS not to exist. The spam, the spam, the spam. Tired of the spam. Tired of all of that. Let's say it together. Make taxation theft again. Hey. I understand that that the previous segment was not for everyone. However, if we want to have fun, we want to try things on a show, we have to try things and experiment. And I know that some people did enjoy the King Libertarian sketch. It will get better. The first time you do something, it starts a certain way, and then it just improves. It's like stand-up. Stand-up comedy is not a thing that you do right away and you're good at. It's something that you perfect over a long time. And I felt like King Libertarian fairly held his own, although my days in the Renaissance Fair and my Shakespearean training has set me up for a good bout of medieval times speaking. I would do well at a medieval times. As an actor at medieval times, what say you? Make sure you click that like button, and if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well, so you can come back and join us every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Guys, we got lots of announcements. Tomorrow, Stephanie and I have a big announcement here on the show. You don't want to miss Freedom Family Friday tomorrow. I'm a star man. Oh my God, somebody sent me a text of their Pepe the Frog mugs from forlibertyshop.com. I think I've got to show to you. Who said that they're slowly converting everyone at work. See, this is the way to do it, guys. You get the fun and the funny merch from forlibertyshop.com, and you just set it on your desk. It's like my Gulf of America tumbler that you can see right here. It's the kind of thing it would be innocuous. You wouldn't think about it. If you just saw it, you might glance and turn away. But if you're the first person at your office to have a Gulf of America tumbler sitting on your desk, people are going to say, "What the hell?" And then look at these awesome mugs. We have Pepe the Frog as a Crusader Knight, which is friggin' hilarious. And then Lulbertarian mug, fiscally conservative, socially outcast. The people who did not enjoy that previous segment are people who don't really know the real AP. When you see the merchandise that's being created at forlibertyshop.com, you have to understand, I have a deep and profound sense of humor. I may do lots of serious work. I may do lots of big brain stuff and talking about philosophy and history, American history and the arts. But deep down inside me is a profound sense of mirth. I never could identify with people who did not have a sense of humor. And I love that I can now express my sense of humor by creating products that spread around the country, and people get a chance to delve into using my sense of humor. They get a chance to win friends and influence people, which if you want to win friends and influence people, it's not by being upset and being serious all the time or being upset at the people who are laughing. It's by having a sense of humor yourself. And you can show that you have a sense of humor in ways that don't necessarily jump into everybody's faces. I mean, if you had a mug that has Pepe the Frog, and might I remind you all that Pepe mug, that style of Pepe, the Crusader Knight, it's not just a regular Pepe, okay? Pepe has different forms and different features. That is the Pepe with Down syndrome. So it's a Down syndrome Crusader Knight Pepe. And I think that even that is lost on some people, but now you know. So, and the Lulbertarian is the sad Pepe, fiscally conservative, socially outcast. You can get Lulbertarian mugs, t-shirts, only exclusively at forlibertyshop.com. If you enjoy the Wake Up America show, you have to understand. We all know you're a tragic theater kid. Chloe Tenderson says, yes. My office is my truck. My grift shop hats are displayed in my windshield and on my hat. See, there you go. Very important that we all have a sense of humor about things, because you're not going to get out of life alive. You don't understand how short life is. Some people don't understand how short life is, and life is beautiful and sweet, and certainly it's wasted on the young. Gulf of America collection is our #1 seller these days. I think it's because everybody's getting ready for the beach. The beach towel is another perfect example of being ahead of the curve. If you show up to the beach, or let's say you're like me and you're landlocked and you're going to go to your friend's above ground pool that may or may not have algae in it, but it's so hot that you don't care anyway, and you're all a bunch of rednecks, and you're going to jump into the pool with a bunch of rednecks. When you towel off, your Gulf of America beach towel is going to get attention, and it's not cheap crap. It's really high quality. It's been confirmed by a third party who is independently verified that this is top notch. Rick Regal wrote a review. And if you guys have gotten products from forlibertyshop.com, please write a review, guys. It matters. We have incredible reviews at forlibertyshop.com. Incredible reviews. You guys write hilarious, incredible reviews. But also it's important that you can see that other people have purchased from the shop and they confirm that the items are top quality, right? So see, for example, these are the Javier Milei Afuera sneakers. And the Afuera sneakers, I wore these to the gym the other day. They're beautiful. They're high quality. You can't get them anywhere else. And they are, where else are you going to get a pair of Javier Milei Argentina Afuera sneakers? Nowhere. Only at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. My Doge Father hoodie comes in tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. The one that Elon Musk with Vivek Ram, not Vivek, might as well be. Argentina's Javier Milei chainsaw. He gave him the chainsaw at CPAC last weekend, and Elon Musk is holding the chainsaw that says "Viva la Libertad, carajo." And, I mean, freaking amazing. And I've got the T-shirt that says "The Doge Father" with Elon Musk and the Javier Milei chainsaw. You won't get that anywhere else. Only at forlibertyshop.com. So do us all a favor. Do yourself a favor. Get ready for summer. Get ready for fun. Get a Gulf of America beach towel. Get a Doge Father hoodie or T-shirt. And get a Gulf of America tumbler. Set it on your desk, or a mug. Set it on your desk and have a conversation with your friends about liberty. Who is Data Republican? Data Republican, right? The Data Republican is the X handle of a woman who has gained significant attention for her data-driven exposés on government spending, particularly focusing on grants funneled to non-governmental organizations. These are NGOs. She's a self-described amateur vote analyst and professional algorithm geek. She's got a background in software engineering and machine learning. Her work involves mining publicly available financial data, anybody could do this, running it through custom-built tools, and presenting it in accessible, searchable databases that reveal connections between government agencies like USAID and the Department of State, right? Interesting. Her efforts have been praised as a groundbreaking contribution to transparency, exposing what some call a bipartisan, corrupt money laundering network. Recently, she was doxxed. Her real name and location were exposed against her will, prompting her to share more about her motivations. Posts on X reveal she is deaf and nonverbal, which kind of adds a layer of personal resilience to the story. She's been lauded as a heroine by figures like Kurt Schlichter, a friend of our show. She's drawn endorsements from names like General Mike Flynn and James Woods for her election analysis and her NGO tracking. Her platform, datarepublican.com, and her Substack further showcase her work, which has evolved from election predictions to a broader mission about fiscal accountability. Her journey seems to have started as a data enthusiast with a knack for spotting patterns. During the 2024 election cycle, she kind of became a standout figure among early voting analysts on X. She's been using sophisticated models to predict outcomes with remarkable accuracy. She outpaced traditional pollsters like Nate Silver and others. Her models actually drilled down to city block levels, analyzing voter turnout trends and demographics, which correctly foresaw Trump's strong performance in states like Florida. She didn't say that Iowa was going to be won by Kamala Harris. Remember that Democrat pollster? Real data. So post-election, she kind of pivoted to this new crusade. She's exposing government waste and potential corruption. She built tools like the NGO government tracking tool, which tracks roughly $1.5 trillion in taxpayer funds awarded to NGOs. Her work suggests that a tangled web where agencies like USAID and the Department of State indirectly fund each other through nonprofit intermediaries, sparking conversations about accountability, and the uniparty, which is a term for perceived bipartisan collusion. Her doxing in February 2025 forced her to confront her anonymity, but of course it also humanized her. She's a deaf, nonverbal woman taking on systemic opacity with nothing but code and determination. Imagine Helen Keller, but she's not retarded and socialist. Everybody's like, oh, Helen Keller. Shush, girl. Shut your lips. Do the Helen Keller and talk with your lips. I said, shush, girl. Shut your lips. Do the Helen Keller and talk with your hips. It is Thirsty Thursday, after all, which means Camellia Peterson's joining us. I'll tell her to shush, girl. Shut her lips. Do the Helen Keller and talk with your lips. I said, shush, girl. Shut your lips. All right, her. Then Daniela. It's Thirsty Thursday, a very royal Thirsty Thursday, we say. Don't give us a royal flush. Stick around. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government. Get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
So Norm Eisen, he runs an NGO called State United Democracies Center, State United Democracy Center. It's actually full of big names like Janet Napolitano, Tom Ridge, Michael Steele. You know, many famous names are involved in this specific NGO. Now, that NGO accepts $17 million in private donation. So I was researching. What do they do? Like, with $17 million? I started researching. But the only thing I could find, and I wouldn't dig, but the only thing that I found, they made a knockoff Muppet show. You think I'm kidding? They actually made puppets, Muppets, but like knockoff puppets. And all the videos that they made with these knockoff puppets had less than 200 views. And so I'm wondering, all those big names, all those famous people at the NGO, and the only thing they did with $17 million was make a terrible Muppet show. They got
$17 million of taxpayer money to make a bad Muppet show. And $17 million. Jesus, if I had $1 million, you realize how much I would spend on ads? I wouldn't get 200 views on my videos. If I had that kind of money, I would get lots of views on my videos because I would spend. So where did the rest of the money go? Thank God for people like Data Republican, a lone data warrior, deaf and nonverbal, uncovering billions in government secrets until someone tried to silence her by exposing her identity. She may not be deaf, but she's very dumb. Camelia Peterson joins us live this morning. Just kidding, CJ. Sorry. Nothing like
Excuse me, see, now you got me all choked up now.
There's nothing like jokes at the expense of handicapped people. Camelia, I've got a lot of handicapped people jokes. So I got to be careful. Nice
We just had Disability Awareness Day in the Capitol yesterday, so be careful.
At least the word retarded is coming back. Like the people, there was like a very strong lobby for a little while that it was like, we're going to get rid of the word retarded. But then Louis C.K. did a bit about it. He's like, we can't give up the word retarded. And it was like, okay, so people are like, we're taking it back. So we can still say retarded. I even see now that reels that we have on Meta that used to, when it said retarded, that would actually used to get you knocked off, but you can now post those. However, I'm demonetized on YouTube for another like 15 days because I used the word retarded in a title. So not okay on YouTube. Wah, wah. Anyways.
Well, you know, YouTube hasn't jumped on the free speech campaign, the bandwagon, like, you know, some others have, you know, like Jeff Bezos and whatnot.
That's wild. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Daniela about that right after you. But I'm curious your thoughts on this data Republican. I kind of, the more I learn about her, the more fascinating a character she is. I assume same for you.
Yeah, really, for sure, interesting. And I don't think, and I'm not sure exactly how she. First, they were asking her in the interview, like, how did you first interact with Elon Musk? Like, what really kind of bumped you to the top of everybody's attention? And so she was, you know, she's a programmer, you know, she was out there kind of digging into all of these NGOs, and she was writing a program that made it easier to access all of that information, because that's been part of the problem that people talk about, right? Is all of this data is out there and supposedly accessible, but it's really, really difficult. They don't make it easy to get to. So it's virtually inaccessible. And so, you know, until you get someone like her who comes in and she says that she uses AI to help, you know, utilize a lot of this data. And so she writes the programs to make it more accessible and break it down into graphs that you can understand, and you can search for specific things. And so it's been illuminating in a lot of ways. And, you know, she in that clip talked about some of the things that they found and the people that they found in there. So I think, you know, once she started getting kind of bumped up by being recognized by Elon and then several other big names, I mean, she had Mike Lee tweeting about her, you know, everybody's coming to her aid now. But when you start to get that kind of attention, like all your haters come out of the woodwork, and so hers have. And the really interesting thing to me, and I saw an exchange that she had with somebody else about this when it first happened, is that this attack this doxing came from somebody in the deaf community.
Yeah.
And as you watched the comments on that, this is all the different communities, like people are people everywhere you go. Everybody has kind of their factions. And so this was a real problem in the deaf community. And this man that did this to her, he is known for this. He has a reputation for doing this to people. And he seems to be, from what I've seen, he seems to be one of those people that he just doesn't like for anybody else to be successful or happy. And so if he sees that they might be getting that kind of attention, he has to try to drag them down and to smear them and to denigrate them. And I don't know much about him. He, from what I saw, he has a large YouTube following. Maybe he's got a lot of views on whatever it is he does on YouTube. But yeah, so she, I think, has handled that really well, particularly with the disabilities that she has, so that affect her communication. That's really brave for her to go on an interview like that. And, you know, that's making yourself vulnerable and opening yourself up to people, you know, criticizing you or making fun of you. And I think probably she was starting to get to the point where she felt more safe doing that. But when she got doxxed, she was like, okay, let's just come out in the open. And for her, like, she has a good team of people around her. She has the interpreter that was with her. You know, she has a couple of other people that work with her on the business side of things, as well as security.
What was funny too is that the person who doxed her information, for people who are tuning in, they have no idea what doxing is. It's when somebody reveals like your name, your private information. If you're anonymous online, to have a degree of anonymity, if somebody is posting your private information publicly, that's called being doxed. Right, like somebody has your documents. What was interesting about the doxing was that the person, like you said, the person who doxed her was a fellow disabled person, and they actually were accusing her of not being disabled because of her sign language. I don't know if you saw this, but they were saying, oh, I speak fluent sign language, and her sign language is broken. That's not real sign language, etc. And then she responded by simply by saying, she's like, I'm just not very good at sign language. She goes, please understand that, like, I do speak some, but that, like, there's more than one form of sign language too. There's lots of different types of sign languages. Apparently, I learned this by, reading into this story. So she's like, and it might be that we may not be speaking the same sign language necessarily, right? So it's an interesting. That was an interesting factoid from that, but
gatekeeping, right? Gatekeeping in the deaf community.
We see it,
right? And it's just and I could understand, like, if she is, I mean, I don't understand, like, probably a quarter of all of the stuff that she does. Like, that is not my forte. But so I really I admire, like, her ability to do all of the things that she does. Like, that's way over my head.
Well, it's kind of a David versus Goliath story in some ways, because she's just she's a regular person, except she's disabled, and she is using tools that are available, like AI, to structure data in a way to make it accessible to everyone. And she's going up against these massive agencies, finding huge amounts of cash. I mean, if you asked the government to do a study to figure out what the same things that Doge and private citizens are figuring out, but now with some transparency, the government study would have cost billions of dollars, and it would have been inconclusive about whether or not there was actually any waste, fraud, and abuse. So, I mean, it's a David and Goliath story too, right?
Absolutely. And, whoever she was working for before, because if, she is this good at this, she had a really decent job otherwise than this. But when she started digging into it, and she was recruited by Doge, she decided not to go that route. And I think the way she put it is, like, she is doing something else that's Doge adjacent, right? Mm-hmm. So, I have no doubt that she is able to be successful financially, regardless. So, but the thing is like, when you do something like this, it doesn't matter how successful you are. It is an enormous price to give up your personal privacy. And so that is, you open yourself to all of these things. And this criticism that she's not using the right sign language, or she's not fluent in it. Okay, well, in her life and in her line of work, verbal communication on a daily basis was probably not necessary most of the time. So she didn't have to utilize her signing skills all the time. And it's not that she's not verbal at all. She is. But this is, for those who haven't seen this, the reason that she's more nonverbal also has to do with, because there's a lot of times people who are either partially deaf or mostly deaf can also speak to a certain extent too. But she is mostly nonverbal due to, she has, it's autism related, and it's called expressive dysphagia. So there is, in the process of her speech, from the process of it from her brain to her expression, like that is something that is different than just being deaf.
Were you surprised when you found out that she was a woman?
Oh, I guess. Yes, I was trying to think. So I guess we've known that for a little bit now. I'm trying to remember when I saw that. I don't know, was it a week ago or so?
I was shocked.
I was surprised too, because the profile picture is pretty. I mean, it's neutral, right?
Gender neutral.
So, yeah, and so, but it was. I don't know. Yeah, I was kind of surprised, because it does seem like most of the people who are doing those sort of things in that field of work tend to be men.
Yeah, it does tend to be men. Would you let her fly a plane? Would you fly in a plane that she was flying?
I would say that's probably not the work that she needs to be doing. It's maybe not a good match with her capabilities.
Okay, let me segue this conversation into something else. If you were to choose between an all-male crew or an all-female crew, which would you choose, and why?
Oh, Lord. I just listened to somebody this morning say, if the government was run by women, and I'm like, no, let's not do that, please.
What? What? Excuse me?
Not to be sexist or anything, but I'm going to take the all-male crew.
Wait. Well, why, Camelia? Why?
Well, just because if we do happen to crash, I need somebody big and strong to carry me out.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Good to know. All male, all the way, all day. Now, what if it would, do you have a preference? Now I'm going to make it racial. Black man, black male pilot, white male pilot.
Why would it matter? Like, I don't.
It wouldn't matter if we didn't have DEI.
I mean, I guess, but has DEI really been benefiting black men?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Like those are usually not the stories that you see.
The whole point of the DEI is absolutely to get minorities and women. And I say and women because women aren't minorities, but they're treated like but you've demanded treatment like you are minorities, right? So you're included in every special category there is. So black man or white woman, wait a minute, black man or white woman? That's a great question, right? Is your racism more important than your misogyny, right? Which of your bigotries?
My gosh. I have absolutely no preference as to what color their skin is if they're a man when they're going to fly the plane.
Okay. What if the man was trans, right? Used to biologically male, born biologically male, now identifies as female, and wants to fly the airplane versus a actual biological female who identifies as a woman, is cisgendered, and has never is just a straight heterosexual female. It's a white female versus a trans woman. So that's a born biological male, but now has transitioned. So trans biological male or cisgender
It's way
woman.
too complicated.
No, it's not. It's a biological male who was born a biological male birth. You just told me, so you walked into a trap here, Camelia, because you just said earlier that you would prefer biological men to fly your plane versus biological women. So I'm telling you, here is a biological man who is transgender versus a biological woman who is not. So which one do you want to fly the plane? Still the man?
Okay, well, this is where we get into the exceptions. There are always exceptions. And I think the exceptions to the biological man is that not all biological men are wanting to transition into being women. And so that in and of itself, sets them into a separate category that maybe, I don't know, they may be fine. It may be totally fine. But it does throw in some different factors.
Okay, so now that the biological man, remember, you said earlier that you would rather have your pilots be biological men who can carry you out of the plane, which implies that the inherent strength of the man is what you desire in order to save you. So you see now you're twisted.
Well,
you're twisted.
You know
up
what you're
in knots
making me.
now.
You know what you're making me thinking of now is that old, I don't know, late 60s song by the Kinks, Lolo. And then when they Lola.
La 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 la. Yes.
She looked like a woman, but she walked like a man.
It seems like it's a joke. It seems like it's funny. It is funny, but it's not a joke. These are real questions that people actually are dealing with. And certainly DEI was about putting minorities into positions and having them get across certain lines, not through merit, but through the inherent qualities of their DNA.
And this is why we see how destructive and how toxic that mindset is, that you would put people into positions of responsibility for which they're not fully qualified. I mean, you are not doing them any favors. You are setting them up to fail, which the irony is, we've talked about this a lot, is DEI seems to have largely benefited white women more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is kind of more of this perpetuating this lie that you can, because of your gender, you can do whatever you want to do and be whatever you want to be, regardless of, your innate skills or how well you have learned something and developed your craft. What does any of that matter? Who cares how educated you are or how good you are at it? Because it's this idea that everything has an equal outcome, which is, this is, the land of opportunity, not the land of guarantees.
That's a good one, Camellia. You've wrangled your way out of a very problematic conundrum. I saw that Mike Kehoe, our governor here in Missouri, was talking about either the commission he's established or the working group that he has put together for abolishing the income tax. I mean, dare I get my hopes up, Camellia? I mean, he said that he would do it, but politicians say a lot of things. Should I get my hopes up? Will Lucy let me kick the football this time, Camellia? Will we actually do this?
I think so. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of players on that issue this week. And so, because the hardest part of any of this is everybody is committed to the same outcome, which is zero. And it's like everything else, like the hard part is like, how do you get there, make all the pieces fit into the puzzle and, the strategy and whatnot. And so, yes, so it will, the goal will be to get it on the ballot. It can't go on the ballot in Missouri. This has to go on the ballot. It has to go on the ballot in 2026. So, how we end up getting there is kind of what we're talking about right now. And that's why he's gathering those groups of people to make sure that, all of the pieces do fit into place and we don't, do anything that harms the state, because you don't want to be reckless. This is something that obviously Missouri has never been done before, but if we do this, like no other state will have done this like we are doing it and taking it to zero in this way. And so it's not only going to be transformative for Missouri, but Missouri will then be leading the country on this this way of eliminating the state income tax. And so I think that he wants to be very intentional about how he gets that done and wants to make sure that it's right before, haphazardly sticking something on the ballot. Because you have seen the things that happen when we put things on the ballot. You've seen the marijuana initiatives where, you have organizations that come in and, you throw enough money at something and you write, something that goes into the Constitution. And you find out later that it's terrible and there's all kinds of bad things in there and unintended consequences. And now it's in the Constitution and we can't change it. Or it's very hard to. So I think that, yes, the process is still ongoing. We will be probably talking about this we'll be talking about this all the way up until, either August or November of 2026. But I think it's going to, that's the time that we need to make sure that everybody is educated, because voters are going to have to vote on it. And honestly, we have to have the people on our side. You know how we're always talking about out-of-state money or special interest groups that come in and they buy these ballot initiatives or whatever. So there will be some opposition to this, and we have to be prepared, and we have to have the people that are ready to fund, letting people know why they should vote yes on this.
I love it, Camellia. It's so exciting, and I'm kind of trying to not to think about it too much because I get so giddy. I kind of laugh because online I'm always talking about how great Missouri is, and a lot of people are always telling me to shut up about it because they're like, "How great! Stop telling people how amazing it is." But I remember that senator in the hearing the other day. She was talking about how she didn't really think that it would be that big of a draw for people to move to the state. I mean, the Republican senators were clearly talking about, moving people who move based on taxes.
Yeah.
There's an ungodly amount of people that I know that would move to the state if we did not have an income tax, right?
Oh, I've heard story after story after story of people who have based their decision on where they live on what kind of taxes they're going to pay.
It's true.
100%.
And all these things that are happening on the state level and then on the federal level. Can you believe, Camellia, that some libertarian... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I got excited because, we talk about stuff that's happening on the federal level and, some of this gets like boring, niche kind of things, but I think the Doge efforts have really elevated a lot of those like nerdy things to the public conversation. And so not only is Missouri working on eliminating the income tax, but when do you remember the Chevron case, right?
Yep.
So that was overturned. So they are trying to pass what they call the REINS Act at the federal level, was basically restores a balance of power and takes this uninhibited rulemaking authority away from unelected bureaucrats and agencies. And so there are a lot of states that are doing this year across the country, and Missouri is one of those. And I'm here to tell you, so Missouri has its own judicial deference legislation, which is that Chevron style legislation, so that the court can't just say to an agency, oh, if this rule is not, or the law is not very clear, we're just going to let you make the call on it, right? Because we trust you to do that. So we have legislation moving through with Senator Nick Schroer right now that is going through the Senate. It's moving much quicker than we thought it would. So we're getting that done. We're getting the REINS Act done, which basically does something similar in that it says, if an agency, something you hear a lot now at the state level is if an agency promulgates rules, right? They're making up their own rules to go along with it. Certain amount of that is necessary, but this says, look, if you're going to make rules and it's going to cost taxpayers more than a certain amount of money or, in regulatory burden, then you have to take it to a vote of the legislature. There has to be that checks and balances there so that the people have some leverage in this. And it's nerdy, but it's really exciting because it's literally reining in the administrative state.
I love it, Camellia, and I'm glad that we've got you here in Missouri working on it. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we let you go today, or plug?
No, I would just say, there's been a lot of things going through at the federal level. I know we have a national audience. So definitely find out who your congressperson is, your senator, and call them, because there are some things that they may need encouragement to keep going if they're already on the right track. If they're not, they need to hear from you, because you don't want to ever give them a reason to say, oh, I didn't hear from my constituents about that issue, because I have heard them say that. We don't want to ever give them a reason to say that. But the Tax Cut and Jobs Act needs to be extended. So there are things like that, the REINS Act at the federal level, that they're working on getting those things through right now, but they need that encouragement and that prodding to get it along.
Love it. Camellia, follow her at Rare Camellia. At Rare Camellia over on X.com. And Camellia, thank you for making this Thursday very Thursday and for putting up with my shenanigans.
It's always good. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. We'll see you later.
To show why socialism is so nubile for the intellectuals. What is that thesis of yours, and do you still defend it?
Certainly, yes. Well, it's a very interesting story intellectually. One of the dominant ideas which governs thinking since the 18th century is the idea that we can make everything to our pleasure, that we can design social institutions in their working. Now, that is basically mistaken. Social institutions have never been designed and do much more than we know. They have grown up by a process of selection of the successful.
I'm talking about some big brain stuff there. That's Friedrich Hayek talking about intellectuals and socialism. The Washington Post no longer will be advancing socialism. They've now taken over the crown from Reason Magazine. According to Jeff Bezos, saying that the Washington Post opinion editorial section will be about advancing personal liberties and free markets. What the hell? What the hell? I have no idea what has caused such a turn in Jeff Bezos. We're going to talk to Daniela Pensack about that, as well as some other stories as well. You don't want to miss it. It's a very thirsty Thursday. If you guys want to get the Make Taxation Theft Against snapback hat that I'm wearing right now, you can get the one that I'm wearing at forlibertyshop.com. Get a Make Taxation Theft Against snapback hat right there, forlibertyshop.com. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run.
Whoa, calm down, Vivek Ramaswamy. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. The 4 Liberty Network is 3, count them, 3 shows. 1, 2, 3. Ichi, ni, san. 3 shows. That's me, Liberty Tonight. You heard from the king of all libertarians earlier. That's why this is a royal Thirsty Thursday these days. But the thirst comes from our thirst traps. Lovely ladies of liberty, Cornelia Peterson, who you just saw, and my next guest, who is the host of her own show, Culturama, right here on the 4 Liberty Network. Daniela Pensack is the host of Culturama, Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Then immediately after, hang out with the boys of Liberty Tonight. Joining us now, live on the show, nice and early on the West Coast, Daniela Pensack, host of Culturama. Good morning, Daniela. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning, Austin. As usual, thank you for having me. I love being here on Thursdays.
I'm glad to have you here. We got a lot to discuss. We're going to talk a little bit about the strange libertarian turn that the Washington Post op-ed section will take. This is odd turn of fate. I was talking a little bit earlier about Vivek Ramaswamy, and we were talking about Data Republican. And I saw this clip of Donald Trump saying this country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting. If Vivek Ramaswamy said something like that, if he tweeted that right now, what do you think the response to that would be?
I think that the response would be not the best considering what happened a couple months ago. But, you know, I think he is trying to practice a little more tact right now. I see that before he announced his run for governorship, he's been going to all these all-American events, like sports events. So, you know, I suppose he's trying to rectify what he said before. But yeah, probably a little different of a reaction right now.
Yeah. So Trump says this country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting. I thought I reposted that and I said, calm down, Vivek Ramaswamy, because now he's running for governor of Ohio. He's getting a lot of criticism from people who said he criticized American culture, and I'm kind of like, no shit. I mean, that's what you and I do every day. Is we critique the degradation of American culture. Is it just because we're white and he's not?
That's a good question. I think, unfortunately, an aspect of that, I think, does come from his heritage. He's like me. He was born here, but his parents were immigrants. So his relationship with his previous culture is perhaps a little bit too new for Americans that lived here for generations. So it may come, even though what he said could be true, it could easily be misconstrued in a negative way, considering his recently ethnic background, similar to someone like me. But unfortunately, it may be difference in the way that how people perceive him saying it versus me is perhaps his difference is a little bit more stark, whereas people look at me and they think like, well, she's probably been here for multiple generations. Maybe you can't, maybe based on my accent, some people hear it's not the same, but maybe their reaction would be similar. But yes, I think that it could in part be due to his ethnic background. But additionally, I just don't think that the tweet came at the right time because there were conversations already about the H-1B immigration debate. And so I think it was also just a timing issue and just the overall political miasma that we were experiencing at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is kind of in the background of Kash Patel becoming the head of the FBI. And so, and he being an Indian man himself ethnically, it makes for an interesting conversation because there is that element that you've discussed. But Kash Patel, he is now one of the top law enforcement officers in the country, and then he gets sworn in, but he gets sworn in not on the Bible, but he gets sworn in on a sacred Hindu text, which did not go unnoticed. There were a lot of conservatives who were deeply concerned about that. What were your thoughts?
So, a little bit split on the issue again. Once again, we don't have like an institute of religion here in the country, so it's understandable why he would want to do it on a text that he finds sacred as opposed to a text that he wouldn't find sacred. So we could at least believe and he could signal to us that he's taking his job seriously. And so, you know, right now it would make sense for him to be sworn on a text that he finds more sacred. Obviously, like if I would swear in on the Quran, I wouldn't take, you know, that seriously. It's not a text that I find, or any Hindu text, for instance. But it is also difficult to ignore that. You know, our country is based on Christian principles, historically for the most part, and in terms of like the American heritage, you could say. So I can see why people would find, I see why it's understandable why people would find that concerning.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, though, if we are wanting to take Kash Patel at his word, it would make also more sense for him to be sworn on a text that he takes more seriously in all contexts.
Yes.
So I would understand why he would want to do that as well.
Drew Van Runkle says Trump should have taken the oath on a Playboy magazine.
Oh no!
Wait, no.
Truth comes out.
Wait, now Ron over on YouTube has he had made an interesting statement. He says you got to be at least a third generation before you can shit talk America. Well, then you're out, right, Daniela?
I'm out. Culturama's over, you guys.
That's it. That's it. No more Culturama. It's canceled.
It's over. I'm here to announce that today.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this has to do with sort of people's ignorance about Indian culture, I feel like, to some extent, because it reminds me a lot about, I don't know how familiar you are with like Irish integration in this country, but there was a lot of bigotry against Irish Catholics. There's a really good film for people who want to start to delve into that. And it's called Gangs of New York. It's a Scorsese film that features Leonardo DiCaprio and Daniel Day-Lewis as the warring gangs of the nativists, who were the Protestants, fighting against the Irish, who were the Catholics. And in terms of like the United States, we don't have a social structure that's as ingrained as India. See, there's the problem with American thinking about Indian culture is that most Americans have no concept of a caste structure. Although here in American society, you can say that, you know, without a doubt, that certain cultures and certain ethnicities have been favored or disfavored at certain parts of American history, right? Blacks were enslaved, but in many ways, in the 1800s, the Irish were actually of a lower caste. There was a lot of, I'm not sure how familiar you are, you might be very familiar with this, Daniela, but like the Catholic discrimination in the United States, the populist movements of the 1800s in the United States, the Know Nothing movement specifically, were rife with, and the KKK also, very anti-Catholic organizations, a strong sentiment against what they called popery at the time. And so Americans, and until John F. Kennedy got elected in the 1960s, the first Catholic president, it took that amount of time for Americans to sort of become enculturated as to Irish Catholic traditions. And there's a lot of fears, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, but we might be sort of I'm not going to say Indians are necessarily an underclass like Irish were, perhaps at that time. They don't experience that level of discrimination as you didn't, like no Irish need apply, right? There's no Indians need apply, you know, signs ever here in the U.S. But maybe we're going through a process of enculturation for Indian culture right now, and it has its sort of birthing pains, if you will. Would you agree with that assessment or add on to it? Disagree?
Right. With a country like the United States, where we don't have that traditional, like Vivek said, blood and soil aspect of our country, like most other countries do, the American project is a unique project in the way that it was started and the way it was founded. So you're right to say that the enculturation process is going to be a long and arduous process, because people are clearly still trying to define what an American is. If you saw the debates that ensued after what Vivek Ramaswamy said about what he believes an American is, and it doesn't have to do with the blood and soil rhetoric. And so it is interesting that you did bring up the Catholic conversation, because I actually didn't hear that one being brought up all that much, considering that like a lot of the people, at least it's interesting because a lot of the people, at least today, that try to pose this like ethnic conversation about what it means to be American, or like bring up more ethnic foundationalism to it, and saying that you have to be white to be an American, are also typically Catholics. So at least right now.
Yeah,
so,
that's why I brought it up. That's why
Yeah,
I brought that up,
exactly.
because of course the hypocrisy is laid bare if you have any knowledge of American history. That especially whenever someone like that, like a right wing, what you might say populist or nationalist who maybe more anti-libertarian or anti-immigration and a cultural supremacist in some ways, maybe a nativist you might call them, is that if they say America's a Christian nation, you could say yes, but not a Catholic nation, right? So I mean, like the Catholic tradition was alien to the original American experiment. So by their own, they can't be held to their own standards, or else the whole concept falls apart. Because if it's like you can only criticize, if you can't criticize America until you're third generation, well, again, you're out, right? And then if I actually had someone try and tell me yesterday that Nick Fuentes was not brown, when they specifically don't seem to understand that being a Mexican, by default makes you brown. I think it's interesting the level of cognitive dissonance that goes on frequently on the right with some of the values and beliefs that they claim to advance. The potpourri of Catholicism is a European tradition. It's very imperialistic. And so many of them are very opposed to Jeff Bezos's open letter that he wrote yesterday to his own editorial staff. This is how I'm going to tie this all together, Danielle, and I'll be curious to see where you take this. Mm-hmm. But many of the papists were quite upset because they, specifically, I saw some French Catholic integralists yesterday was complaining about what Bezos had said, because he talked about how their new editorial line will be for personal liberties and free markets, which does not please the Fuenteses of the world, the brown white nationalists. They were not pleased with this because they say America is not intrinsically tied to personal liberties or to free markets. And so it's interesting, the conversation we have on the right, because I see this as a great cultural victory. I see that the Jeff Bezos I don't know if you've ever seen Game of Thrones, but each house that's vying for the throne has bannermen, and the bannermen are the other sort of mini houses that support a house. Mm-hmm. And so I very much see, Jeff Bezos is becoming a bannerman for Trump as a positive thing for our culture. One of the most powerful, love him or hate him. I have my problems with Bezos. I have my problems with Mark Zuckerberg, right? But it appears to be a cultural victory. And yet Catholic integralists, brown, white nationalists don't see it as a cultural victory. They don't like what Jeff Bezos is saying. So I'll give you this ball now and run with it. What do you see the Jeff Bezos free markets and personal liberty turnabout as? Is it a cultural victory or is it a cultural defeat?
Oh, it's absolutely a cultural victory. We've seen this happen, of course, with big media has been doing cutbacks. Mark Zuckerberg has been clearly changing his tune, and now we have Jeff Bezos doing so as well with the Washington Post. And yes, it most definitely is a cultural victory. And whether or not you want to claim that this is a legitimate move on his part, or he's just doing it because he's seeing where the cultural trends are heading, I think it's the latter. Obviously, I don't really trust these people. At the end of the day, they're going to do what makes them more successful, which is why they're so successful, like Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, right? Perhaps they're a bit opportunistic, but I don't really look at them as I don't really care for their own personal salvation or them as people. What I do care is that they are figureheads that embody major institutions in the country, and for them to be captured like this on the right side, so to speak, is a major cultural win. And I wasn't aware of the Catholic integralists, or I also presume Grapers as well, have a different stance on it. I didn't see that. So it's very interesting that you mentioned that. It really does seem like these people are addicted to losing.
Thank you. Yes, it reminds me. They remind me of my libertarians.
They are the way they are, I guess.
Yes, they remind me of the libertarians who are black-pilled on Trump, who cannot accept the victories that he's laying at our doorstep. They're saying, because in my view, the Republican Party is very much trending in a libertarian direction. I mean, Trump is endorsing Vivek. His favorite foreign leader is Javier Milei. His lieutenant, Elon Musk, no matter what he says in the past, he's not a socialist, because socialists, they don't destroy institutions. They make them bigger and more powerful. He's destroying institutions. I mean, he's advancing libertarian causes. Trump may not be a libertarian himself per se, but I don't care what someone claims to believe. All I care about are the trappings of victory, the trophies that come with success. And Trump has brought libertarians more heads of their enemies than any libertarian has ever brought us, or any capital L libertarian, philosopher, whatever. He's in many ways a libertarian warlord. And I consider, and if there's one thing I think libertarians need, as a man who believes in violence, believes very deeply in violence and rejects pacifism, and I believe very strongly in the use of force, initiatory, aggressive force in defense of liberty, I see Trump very much as that sort of like God emperor in a way, right? Not a god per se, but like I see him as the warlord that the libertarian movement has needed, a movement that is full of pencil-necked dweebs, effete homosexuals, and limp-wristed, ivory-towered academics who have never picked up a sword in their life and swung it, who've never picked up a rifle in their life and shot it, who don't understand the art of war. But Trump understands the art of war. And people like yourself, for example, you're like Xena Warrior Princess, to use a character that you've never seen or heard or watched any of their shows, I guarantee, because it was long before you were born. But I mean, I think you probably agree with me that these ideas, the principles of free markets and personal liberty, they have to have a sword, don't they? Don't we need to have a sword in order to advance our ideas, or we'll be overcome by the barbarian hordes, will we not?
Yeah, yes, most definitely. You have to be strong, and you have to apply force when it's appropriate to, further your own principles. And sometimes, you do have to do things that are uncomfortable. And there are contingents of people in the political right wing that think that he isn't strong enough and that he's not authoritarian enough, which are the people that we just mentioned that aren't happy with him. You have others, perhaps on the libertarian side, that think he's going too far, perhaps. So the fact of the matter is, though, is that he is delivering on the promises that the right wing and the conservative movement have been vying for it and asking for a long time. And no, perhaps it's not completely perfect, or he hasn't fulfilled all of his promises yet, but he clearly has intentions to do so, more so than I would say many previous presidents have in the past already. And granted, it took him a second term to do so, but I think that he's learned a lot. It shows that he's learned a lot since his first term, and the last 4 years with what he had to endure. He clearly is coming back with a vengeance, and maybe it was necessary for him not to win in 2020, for him to endure what he had to endure to actually be effective in this second term. And he is recapturing institutions ideologically. And what we see from that is the secondary effect, where you see big media like social media with Mark Zuckerberg, or or press media with Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post actually change their tune now, according to that. And that's a really big win. And I really don't understand why there are conservatives out there that still are trying to find issues with what Trump is doing or what Doge is doing. It's, again, these people seem like they're just bitter and they want to lose. They're contrarian in every aspect. And even though contrarianism, like, I can't understand that. You want to play devil's advocate and question the system or question what's being done. But at the same time, you have to accumulate your wins, or you're just going to be a completely demoralized movement and people.
I love it. And this is the reason that your podcast exists. I mean, your job is to represent these principles and these ideals and bring them out to the public in a way that is, leaning forward, leaning in, to borrow a phrase from the feminists, right? Lean forward, and to take our culture back from the elements of the left, which have perverted it, subverted it, taken the ideals of the United States that harken all the way back to 1776, and holding fast to these values, because the cultural degradation, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't even one generation that was lost many of our liberties, our freedom of speech. We were so close to going full UK here in the United States. If Kamala Harris had won, or Joe Biden, if the left had won, whoever it was, they were going to initiate speech controls exactly like the UK. So, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction, but certainly the loss of liberty has been something that's built up over generations. And that's why we're taking the culture back. We like to say, taking back tomorrow, today. at rumble.com/Culturama. Daniela, can you give us a sneak preview about what you're going to talk about on your excellent show tonight?
Yes, of course. Well, obviously, I'll be talking about this, and we'll be talking about the wins that we have still been racking up with the Trump administration. I do want to touch on the topic of the Epstein files as well, and the transparency that we are experiencing. Government is not completely transparent, obviously, but we are reaching at a level where finally we can say that our government is somewhat transparent. So I'll be talking about that. And I have a guest on as well. His name is David Cuesta. He is a fellow streamer, so that'll be really fun. And he has similar viewpoints to me in the show. So we're gonna kind of like have a conversation about what's happening here. But I primarily want to focus on the topic of the Epstein files because I do think that's rather important, and we think we've been waiting for that for a long time, and it's about time they actually open it up instead of just dangling in front of our faces like they have for so long. So, but it's going to be a really good stream. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So please come over to Culturama. We start streaming at 5 p.m. Pacific or 7 p.m. Central. And it's always a fun time. We have a tiny but mighty strong base of fans that always show up and always donate. And but we're trying to grow that base, obviously. So I'd love to see new faces on.
There we go. That's Daniela Pensack, host of Culturama. Watch her tonight and then watch Liberty tonight directly after at rumble.com/Culturama. Daniela, thanks for getting up so early. We love your insight, man. This is great stuff. I can't wait to watch your show tonight. Have a good day.
Of course. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you very much.
Brand new polling, which shows overwhelming support for the DOGE cuts. When asked if the U.S. federal government debt is unsustainable, 67% say, heck yeah, it is. It's unsustainable. 33%, nah, man, we got this. But when asked if DOGE is helping make major cuts in government expenditures, 60% say, heck yeah, it's helping. 40% say, no, it's not helping. And finally, when asked if DOGE should have access to the sensitive data, remember that one? 58% say, heck yeah, give them the access. Compared to 42% who say, no, don't give them the access. So we want to dive further into this now with Robert Bluey. He's president and executive director of the Daily Signal, and also Dan Turrentine, co-host of...
And there we go. The people support it. Let's do it. 33% with heads up their butts. F Sports Horse 66, first time I've seen you here on the show today. Welcome, my man. It's the end of the show. I hate to see you go. Sign of Jonah, Wilderman, like wildebeest, wild man. Thanks so much for joining us today. Quest Fanning, Luke Sacker, Captain Tight Pants, Fiery Waco, very fiery Waco, Quest Fanning, LW78, Jay Halbine, Drew Van Runkle, Sign of Jonah, all of our friends over at the chat. We appreciate you guys very much. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Don't forget to exit through the gift shop. Get yourself an incredible Gulf of America 20-ounce tumbler. Remember, guys, you set this on your desk, you become the hero at the office and the bane of all of the liberals. Get it today at forlibertyshop.com. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow. Big announcement tomorrow concerning the network. You do not want to miss it. If you're down to clown with the For Liberty Network, then make sure you watch tomorrow morning, Freedom Family Friday. Me, Steffi P, maybe Justin Peterson, we'll see. Freedom Family Friday, big announcement tomorrow. So come back tomorrow. We'll see you guys on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionado avocados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.